Man, I got one thing to say about this show.
Welcome to the Weekly Fix podcast, where we're just two friends talking about our passions within movies, TV shows, gaming, and comics. Thanks for checking out the podcast. We hope you like it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Weekly Fix. I'm Zane. Joined with me is Jacob. We are your host for today, and we have an exciting episode. We're a few days late just because of some scheduling conflicts between me and Jacob, both having a very busy schedule, but we are here and ready to do it. On today's docket, we have Daredevil Born Again, and then we're going to talk about the maybe most controversial episode of TV in a long time with The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 2. So, full Daredevil Born Again review and Last of Us Season 2, Episode 2 review. We will give a non spoiler review for both of those quickly and then dive way into them. So, if you're interested in any of that, you can go ahead and jump to the little timestamp that we provide to you in the comments. If you're on Spotify, you can just click where you want to go. It'll take you there. Also, that's the same on YouTube. So, guys, thank you so much for joining. If you have not left us a review or subscribed, it would be awesome if you guys could do that for us. It'd be really cool to start seeing some numbers grow, and we just really appreciate you guys jumping in. And if you haven't done that, we'd love to get a follow. But before we jump into any of the reviews, Jacob, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's a fun time of the year. You just got done with your college playoffs or the college March Madness stuff, which is super fun for you. But now it's my favorite time in the sports world with the NBA playoffs kicking off. Been a great time getting to watch the Knicks play, even though they haven't played the best. They got the series tied 1-1. I'm hopeful they're actually playing right now. So trying to keep up with that game while we're doing the podcast is fun. And then we have a whole bunch of content stuff going on, like you were talking about. We got Daredevil wrapped up. We just got the second episode of Last of Us. We are going to see Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith in the theaters tomorrow, which will be an absolute blast. I'm so looking forward to that. So yeah, it's been awesome lately.
Yeah, such a fun little start to the. I mean, I guess into this spring season, with a ton of stuff going on. I actually didn't realize the Knicks were playing. It's so nice when for your teams to play in the actual time zone. I made some
Yes.
really bad choices this week and have stayed up way too late to watch the Warriors play. Oh
Uh,
man, game starting at 9:30 is just it's the worst. It sucks so bad.
that's why it's nice when they do get a little farther into the playoffs. If you make it to like the Western Conference Finals, or you're lucky enough to make it to the finals, you get that good start time for all time zones. So that's your only hope if you want to continue, to catch up on some sleep, is you got to hope the Warriors make a run this year.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever get sleep. Uh I just substitute one piece of content for another. But yeah, it is a fun season, and we've had a wonderful season outside of content, also with just coming out of Easter. Had a wonderful Easter. We had a very special Good Friday service at our church that was also very nice with our Connect group. So a really fun season, and we're in the midst of Andor. Andor dropped on Tuesday. I have not had an opportunity to watch it. Jacob, have you been able to check it out at all yet?
I've gotten one episode in, which it makes it so hard with these 3 episode drops, which we're gonna have for the entire season, which is kind of cool. Like we're not gonna be missing really any content. We're not gonna be like, oh, what's gonna happen in the next episode because we'll just about have it. But it is hard when you're on such a time schedule with work and all sorts of other things going on. So yeah, I've gotten one episode in so far.
Yeah, with this being a little bit delayed, podcast was supposed to be dropping Tuesday. I didn't feel the need to try to push through my tight schedule to fit 3 hours of content, which I don't know where I would have put it honestly. I just haven't had an option to, especially since I still want to get Chelsea to watch the first season. It seems criminal that she hasn't seen it, but she hasn't seen the first season of Andor, so that does slow down the momentum quite a bit. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Next week, I believe we will have our ranking, and then we will be doing our Andor review. So very exciting stuff coming up. I'm very excited to talk about it. And during that ranking episode, we've definitely talked about Andor. So Jacob, Daredevil has completely wrapped up. There is no more Daredevil Born Again. And I'm super excited to hear what you thought. Jacob, what were your thoughts on the finale first, and then give us like a spoiler-free review of the entirety of the season one?
Yeah, I think as far as this season went, it was a fun show. It was something that was exciting for the Marvel Universe to get back to a character that is very beloved in the franchise, and people were excited to have them back on their screens. Obviously, by now, I don't think it's really a spoiler, but we do get some Punisher scenes, which were a lot of fun. And stuff like that always is nice to see on TV again. So I think it did a lot of really good things, but I feel like ultimately it left me just wanting a lot more. And I think they did start to kind of fix some of those issues as we got to those final two episodes of the season when we got to see the new writing crew come and take over. You started to see some things that went in place that you kind of were like, if they would have had a whole season, this writing team would have been able to take care of the whole season. I think we would have been a lot more thrilled about it. But overall, I think it was just a very solid show. I am more excited for what is to come than what we did get because I feel like what's to come is going to be very special and a lot of fun. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with this. I think it was a really great show to lead us up into Thunderbolts that we have coming up here in a couple weeks. I think that's going to be really cool to get to experience, New York some more in the Marvel universe, and I'm interested to see what parts of Daredevil affected Thunderbolts or what parts of Thunderbolt affect the Daredevil universe that we just got. So overall, very fun show, but I'm more excited for what's to come.
I'm gonna make a prediction that Daredevil has zero impact on Thunderbolts.
Oh,
I don't.
I don't think that it. I'm just interested to see if the Thunderbolts mess up anything that happened in Daredevil. That's kind of where I'm like, I wonder what's going to happen there. But
I don't think they're gonna say Fisk is even mayor.
okay,
I would
you
say
you
they're
just think they
completely
completely
silent.
brush over it? Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like they kind of have to keep the interest of the common viewer to not have to watch 9 hours of content to enjoy this film.
Mhm.
And I haven't seen any reviews of. I know the fan screenings just were done like 2 days ago, maybe yesterday, but I haven't seen anything about that yet. So I am also very interested to see if there's any interaction, and if there's not, or if there is. Honestly, I'm fine either way. I'm okay with, as long as you don't mess something up like wrongly, then I'm good with it. Not mentioning it's fine, but I do think you could do a disservice to it by, if you're going to incorporate it, you got to incorporate it fully. So
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of like. I agree. I think they'll be silent on it. I don't think we'll hear much mention of it. I'm just curious, like, he is the mayor of New York. Obviously, some crazy things are going to be going down in New York. So I'm just curious to see how that correlation is. Like, is it going to be one of those things, which we'll get into more of the spoilers with Daredevil, so I won't mention it yet, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of things that, like, I almost feel like have to be touched on either a little bit in Thunderbolts or a little bit in the next season of Daredevil, just for it to kind of make sense. And I'll explain myself a little bit later. But yeah, I think it was a fun first season, and I thought the finale wrapped up pretty well.
yeah, I don't. I wouldn't use the word fun, and this is probably my own fault because I am uh, such a huge fan of Daredevil, such a huge fan of the original series and everything that was done there. It's very let down. The finale was significantly better, a massive improvement, but I still have significant character issues. I love the fact that we get Punisher, and this isn't a spoiler, but Karen Page, right? I think when those two are on the screen, it's fantastic. Karen Page gives a ton of heart to the show. She is kind of the glue that keeps Matt incredibly grounded, and I really love that aspect of it. I despise his girlfriend. I talked about it last episode. I hate it. I hate her. I don't like her. She's awful. Get her out of the show. She's not good. She's not good for the show. And then Punisher makes some really bad decisions that he shouldn't make later in the episode, which really set me off. I didn't, kind of took me out of it. I did not like the way they characterize Punisher in this finale, and we can talk about it in a little bit once we get out of spoilers. But I mean, into spoilers. So I thought that the finale was significantly better, and I agree with you. This writing team did better, but I still think this was a very weak outing for it. Actually, like, character development, character consistency, writing style. The action was way better. But I think they kind of did that over the top gore-esque thing. Especially there's a moment with Fisk that's just way too excessive, way too excessive. You probably loved it. How did you feel about that Fisk scene?
I already we talked about it a little bit. I thought it looked terrible, but I didn't mind what they were trying to do. So I'm excited to talk about that because I do agree. It feels like it's something Marvel just simply can't get right. Is the gore aspect of how that thing should look? I think it was you actually in the past have sent me like you wish this is what Marvel would do, and I believe it was the Kingsman
Yeah,
movie. They did it so well. Like the blood splatter makes sense. It doesn't feel over the top. And this was one of those shows that it feels like every punch they throw, we're seeing blood like fly out of people's mouths and stuff like that. And it just didn't feel very realistic. And I understand that they're probably excited. You know, we have the ability to throw this blood around on the screen, so let's take full advantage of it. But when it's done in such a distasteful way, it just ends up looking bad. So I completely agree with that. I think they could do a lot better. And I'm hoping that's something that does get better as Marvel continues to get more of these TVMA shows and stuff like that, especially if we're going to be getting like a Punisher special, which we obviously know how the Punisher is going to be. There's going to be lots of blood and stuff like that. I hope they start to learn to correct some of those things before we have some of these shows that I feel like could really benefit from that being done well.
yeah. It and it wasn't awful. I'm gonna say the gore wasn't terribly done, but it still could have been improved, especially with that scene specifically. Some of the Punisher stuff I felt like was over the top, and we are getting his special, so I'm curious to see how they handle that. But the fights were so much better. There was so much fewer cuts in the scenes. Like they actually let the fight flow a little bit. There was actually some good camera work. So that made me incredibly happy to be watching a fight and actually enjoy it and not be like, why are they cutting 75,000 times? So that was really good for me. But overall, this show was a letdown for me and a disappointment with a spark of hope at the end.
Yeah, and especially for you, I can completely understand where you're coming from because this was your most anticipated show of the year. So just having such high expectations and wanting something to live up to it is hard sometimes to like with the finished product that we did get. Because for me, I didn't have nearly as high of expectations as you did. I wasn't as hopeful as you were. So I think I was able to see it in just a little bit of a different light and kind of just have fun with it. So I understand those things too because it was far from a perfect show. But like you said, it does have that spark of hope at the end that I think if they can carry that momentum into a season two, it could end up being something really special.
Yeah, and if they can get some more characters. Um,
Well, that's kind of what I was hitting at a little bit earlier, but
yeah, so that's kind of our non-spoiler. There's just so much to talk about that someone may can be like, "Ah, I didn't want to know that." So, do you want to give our rankings before or after we kind of do our spoiler?
we can go ahead and give our number ranking now. I think that's fine, especially if people want to know what we rated the show, but don't quite want to know what it is if they haven't had a chance to finish it up yet. So why don't
Okay.
you go ahead and start us off because I know this was your most anticipated show of the year.
Uh, I'm gonna give it a 6 as a total. And I hate to do that. I really don't want to. I wanted it to be so much better. But I'm giving the show a 6 purely on the fact that this was two separate shows that was shoehorned in and handled. It has the best background of any MCU show we have, and it completely botched it. All they had to do was continue the story with the same creative team that did Netflix. Netflix show wasn't canceled because they ran out of material or because it was losing viewers. It was canceled because Disney bought them. So, um, that's why I'm giving it a 6 because it was just such a steep decline from the source material, and I did not like a lot of the show.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense for you, especially how much and how high of regard you do hold the last show. You always want something to live up to those expectations. So I think that makes total sense. For me, it's a 7. I think I had a lot more fun with it and I was a lot less critical of it just because of some of those things that, it's not as important to me for this story to be, so well written and stuff like that. More so what I like from the Daredevil shows and have in the past is I do like the action, right? And I think they did do a good job with that. You touched on a little bit previously. The action was really fun. I think the cameos were done very tastefully, which I think that's all you can ask for nowadays in a world of which with Marvel, we do get cameos so often, and sometimes they feel like they're just for the sake of it. And I think they did a really good job of making this feel like a Daredevil show and not just an everybody else show. So some of those things I think they handled really well, which kind of helped with my score. But yeah, I had fun with it overall. I do obviously have my complaints that we'll get into when we start talking about some of the spoiler stuff, but I think a 7 is where it's going to wrap up for me.
Okay. 7 is super solid for this show. I can see someone who isn't attached to it or caring as much about character development and those kind of things, and just kind of having fun with it. I can definitely see giving it a 7. I just couldn't justify it myself.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense.
So, all right, so this is your warning. If you do not want any spoilers for Daredevil Born Again, you can click off here. You can jump to our Last of Us review, or you can just dip out. Whatever you're feeling, won't hurt our feelings. We'll be all right with it. But Jacob, Daredevil Born Again, full spoiler review. How are you feeling?
Man, I got one thing to say about this show. Where the heck is Spider-Man? And I think that is the whole sentiment that can be echoed throughout the entire Marvel franchise. And I think it's funny that I just got done saying they did such a good job without doing too many cameos in a Daredevil show. But it is turning into such a Spider-Man level event that I think that's where the show really started to kind of drift away for me personally. I know we talked about earlier on in the show, like how we were like, oh, we want more Daredevil. It does feel a little bit slow, but they did a good job of making it feel like it wasn't getting to. I hesitate to use the word Avengers level threat because we're definitely not there, but kind of walking that line. I think earlier on it did a really great job of being that street level show. We see him defending White Tiger. We see what happens with White Tiger, how he's killed, and how Daredevil feels upon himself that he needs to go figure out what happened to him because he kind of feels responsible for it. And I think that's the stuff that I really wanted to continue to get. And then it just really at the end started to feel like it's getting too big for it just to be a Daredevil show. And I think those are things that are going to get fixed in the second season. I think they're going to wrap up things really well, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But I really enjoyed that aspect of it earlier on. Most of us, me and you in particular, really enjoyed the bank episode, where he's stuck in the bank with the people trying to rob it. That felt such like a street level crime aspect of Daredevil that I really like. So I would have liked to see it continue that, and I just feel like towards the end of the show it started to get a little too big. And I hope that's some stuff that it doesn't get carried away with in the future.
Yeah, it definitely got to a level where you're like, okay, like somebody needs to be talking. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of the issues with like the police force. Like when you paint the entire police force as just being willing to stand aside and let this atrocity happen, like I don't know, like you start really disconnecting us from reality. And like the fact that there was like 6 corrupt cops, dude, completely agree with that. Like that's reasonable. Have your small task force seem untouchable, but then once you like bare hand smash the commissioner's head in, and all of the cops are now willing to put a bullet in Frank Castle, like I don't know, dude. I feel like this just like I agree with you. Like it just exploded into almost nonsense. Like, okay, somebody's coming. And I was thinking like at some point somebody's just got to put a bullet in Fisk's head. Like one cop would just be like, you know what, we're gonna die anyway, or like it's worth it. The evil that's happening, somebody would take care of that. I don't know. It doesn't happen in the real world, so maybe it wouldn't happen there. I don't know, but it just seems crazy. It, I definitely should have seen Spider-Man in this show, especially with as big as it got. We should have been able to have the Defenders team there. We should have had
Mm-hmm.
someone, Kate Bishop, Miss Marvel. Like we need somebody to show up. It doesn't even have to be Spider-Man, but there's
Yep.
got to be somebody. And then I was really excited. I thought they were going to pull the trigger on that with the end scene where he's like giving like we need an army. We're going to go to the bar and get an army. And there's no help. Zero help. I could have gave
Yeah.
like a little tease there.
Yeah, they did such a good job with the Punisher scenes, right? And so that's what gave me so much hope that when we started to get, I mean, we have a full power outage in New York City, cops running rampant, killing kids in the street, acting like that anybody's a vigilante by pulling, a beanie over their head and making it look like they were a masked vigilante. Like it was getting to the point where like Daredevil is clearly not going to be able to do all of this on his own, right? He can't be everywhere all at once. And those were the moments I think would have been perfect. Like, hey, just show us, 5 seconds of Kate Bishop, in the streets or something like that. Just show us a couple of seconds of this here and there. Again, we didn't expect to see Spider-Man, but when you do start to get to this level, we know Spider-Man is like the defender of New York, right? Like that's his thing. He would definitely have been out in the streets trying to figure out why the power's out, why there's gunshots rattling off in every corner of the every avenue. And that's the stuff that like they could have done really well with. Again, I didn't want it to not feel like a Daredevil show, but it got to the point where like it's just like nothing's gonna happen, right? Now, if they want Daredevil and Fist to be the end all, like that be a final fight, I'm perfectly okay with that. That would be awesome. It would make a ton of sense. But he is gonna need help, like you were talking about with the army and stuff like that. So I really think they had an opportunity to do a lot more there. And I do think this might have been just a product of the second writing team not having time to do everything they really wanted to do and maybe get people in to do these shoots and stuff like that. Because people are busy with Thunderbolts, people are busy with the new Avengers movies. We get it. But I think this just had so much potential to start to really connect the world of Marvel again and make it feel like it's one universe. And I think they just missed the mark on that, which is really disappointing because they really did a good job of almost building up to it perfectly.
Yeah, and I think back to X-Men '97 and how well they handled the
Yep.
the spoilers. Not the spoilers. I was thinking spoilers. How well they had handled the cameos. Like
Yep.
they didn't do anything, but we saw that they were involved, they were doing
Hmm.
something. It was a flash in it, and sometimes that's needed, especially when you've developed as big of a universe as you have. It it would help to just know, hey, they're doing something. Like maybe it's not a
Hmm.
part of our storyline that we're following, but it should be doing something. And I think you handled it well there. You said that they handled the Punisher scenes well, and I think they did with the subtraction of him going to the cops and fighting. That was
Yeah.
honestly for me really one of the probably the lowest point of the finale.
Yeah, I think for me, with how they handled the Punisher scenes, was just more so how much they used him. I like that he
Okay.
wasn't in every single episode because, again, that would have started to make it feel like maybe this shouldn't have been called Daredevil Born Again. Maybe this should have been called like Daredevil and Punisher, something along those lines. So I think they handled that well. I do understand like the thought process of a lot of people not liking that he just kind of went crazy and was like, I'm just going to go into this fort where there's all these cops. There's no chance of me really making it out. Some of that stuff did make a little less sense. I almost wish it would have been more calculated. Like maybe he sneaks in, maybe he, goes about it a different way, and ultimately maybe he just can't do it on his own. Maybe he does eventually get overrun. But yeah, just kind of walking up to everybody, just like I'm gonna shoot my way through everything. It is kind of Punisher-esque, but just not as calculated as Punisher would have been, even if he went about it that way, right?
Well,
Just with one shotgun, one
yeah.
pistol, we Punisher would have rolled up there with machine guns, rocket launchers, grenade. I mean, it would have been a big bang. And that's again one of those moments where I'm like, it feels like they know what they wanted to do. They know what the fans want to see, but it's just like they're missing it. And there's so much of that in this show that is just what separates it from being great.
Yeah, and exactly. He would have took his van, he would have loaded it with an M60 in the
Mm-hmm.
back. He would have been and especially like he would have researched it. Like he doesn't go into things that he doesn't know at least somewhat what to expect.
Yep.
Like like, even in the Punisher show, when he goes to confront Billy and he gets the mess beat out of him by Billy's guys, like, he knew what he was walking into and it was personal and he understood the stakes, but, like, he was willing to make the bad choice because he felt like it was his responsibility, his fight, and, like, there was emotional weight there. And there's none of that here. There's no
Mm-hmm.
emotional weight for him other than the fact that they're wearing his Signia
Logo.
on it
Yeah.
and, like, doing it in his name. But, dude, I just, like it was, they said they gave the writers and they said, "Hey, we need him to be in prison in Fisk's lair, for his special. Get him there." That's what I feel like they
Mm-hmm.
did. They were like,
And
"Okay."
like
after we use him, this is where we need him to be. Do whatever it takes to get him there.
And again, that's really not a problem of mine, right? Like if that's where they wanted him to be, cool. But they just could have done it a lot better. And like I'm of the frame of mind, like I think his intention was to get captured. He wanted to get on the inside and do all these things. I just don't think he would have done it the way that he did. And I think obviously you agree with that. Like we both said the same thing here. So that's just the frustrating part. But I like what you mentioned there. Not even something I'd really thought of. That is exactly how it feels. Like, hey, we need him inside a Fisk layer for a special. The special is going to be him busting out of here, killing a bunch of people, and it's going to look really cool. So that's got me excited, right? Like it's going to be a really fun special. But it is a little frustrating how it was handled to get him there.
Yeah, and oh man, it is fun. It's a fun thing to see him, and I'm happy that we get Punisher. Like,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's such a he's such a good character. He's one of my favorites for sure. I just I would like him to be used the best he can. So
Well, it's one of those things, right? Would you rather have it not be like the greatest show ever and at least you still get it, or just not get it at all? And of course we're going to both agree that we'd rather still get it. Like we still want to see these characters. It wasn't like the show was such a train wreck that we're like, oh, this damaged the reputation. I don't feel like it went that far. So obviously we were still happy that we're getting this stuff and all that stuff, so we don't want people to think that. It's just like we do want it just to be handled with a little bit more care, and maybe thought out a little bit more than this felt like it was.
yeah, and the other thing is we know what they're capable of. We know what
Mhm.
the writing teams are capable of for Marvel. We know what the writing teams are capable for this show in particular. So it's not like we're saying we've not we're asking something that's not been done. Like no,
Mhm.
like this has been done, this has been performed. You guys have done this before. So just do it again. Like we don't we it doesn't need to be like super special. Like I'm not saying like if our complaints was, "Oh, they don't come up with anything new ever and it's annoying." Like that's like an unwarranted complaint sometimes, especially with comic books because that
Mhm.
is like it is a repetitive genre sometimes. But that's we need the material to be good. And when you have limited time to watch things and then it's not the best thing that you're watching, that's really
Yeah.
frustrating. Like it's like, I just wasted my time. And I hate that. I hate wasting my time.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with all those things.
So, but I I don't know. There's so much on like throughout the season that we talked about that was like, they just like why did we spend so much time with what's his name? With the blood guy, like Muse.
Oh,
Like
Muse. Yeah.
honestly, I feel lied to. I feel lied to from the scrapping. They were like, "Oh, like we saw that it was bad and we scrapped it, and we're fixing it." I don't feel like that was true. Like I feel like they kept all of that. Do you feel like they completely rewrote or fixed what was wrong with the scrap, or am I just kind of like crazy?
I think the only episodes that really gave us like belief in that are those final two. And that's apparently when the writing team fully came on. Now, I understand, they probably didn't have all the time to do the exact same things that they wanted. It does feel like they probably didn't change a ton of stuff. I definitely feel like some stuff had to have gotten scrapped with how people were talking about how terrible it was at first. What we got, I didn't feel was as bad as people said that the pre-scrap stuff was. So if they didn't scrap it all, people were definitely over exaggerating how bad it was, which can also lead to more chaos and make things even worse, right? When people start saying stuff's bad when it's really not all that bad. So I don't necessarily think that they didn't scrap any of it, but I don't think they scrapped as much as they probably were trying to lead us to believe they did.
Right. And that's kind of what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
Like obviously, like they went back through and they edited some stuff and they added
Hmm.
some stuff that they wanted to include. Like I don't think Bullseye was in the original script. I definitely know Karen and Punisher weren't in the original script. So all those things were added. And so they obviously added some of the cop scenes with like the undertones of Punisher.
Hmm.
I'm guessing, but I just like it seems like we didn't get Daredevil in this season until the last 3 episodes. And I feel like they should have just scrapped all of it. Like, instead of just taking away some here and some there, I feel like they should have just scrapped all of it and let them do a completely new show because it's their timeline. Like, this isn't interjecting with anything. This isn't like they can't do it. Like, they can do whatever the heck they want. Like,
Hmm.
if they want to release this in 3 years or if they want to release this today, like, it's the streaming service, it's their money. Like, they can do that. Like, just give a quality product.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. I think it's just one of those things that um, it does just feel like there was a disservice done to it. It obviously, started off very controversially, um, and we just got to the point where we're at. So I do, like I said, I think we've both agreed. I think we have hope for the second season. It feels like they finally do have a direction that they want to go in, which I'm looking forward to. I definitely didn't hate the show. Obviously, I rated it a 7. There's a lot of good that I did enjoy, like um, I liked the bank scene. We've talked about that a bunch throughout the podcast. I did like the finales. I thought the action scenes were really well done most of the time. I think one of the other things that we haven't talked about, though, that is negatively about the show, unfortunately, is it's criminal how little we did get Daredevil suited up in a Daredevil show. We went how many episodes without seeing him in the suit a single time, which I understand what they were trying to do. They were trying to make us feel like he gave up the mantle and all that stuff. I just feel like that could have been done a little quicker than it was. And then the scenes that we did get him in the suit, we got him for what, 5 minutes maybe in the first episode. We go maybe 4 episodes without seeing him at all. And then we see him in his suit for a scene against the Muse, and that's about it for that episode. And it just felt like we didn't get that enough, which some people might hate that, some people might not, or might love it. I personally think that if it's a Daredevil show, we should see Daredevil as Daredevil. We don't want to see just Matt Murdock. That's not what was advertised to us. We want to see him suited up. And that was another one of my biggest complaint that definitely took some off my rating, is just how little we got to see Daredevil.
right. Yeah. No, so we didn't see Daredevil until the end of episode 6.
Okay, yeah.
Like, that's
So
wild.
that's even longer than I said.
So
you know?
that's so frustrating. And then you tease White Tiger, a new hero that is really cool,
Hmm.
and then you just kill him. Like,
Yep.
straight up murk him. And we never got to see him do anything, which I would
Except
love
walk
to
up
see
a
a new
dark
hero.
alleyway.
Yeah, like, put a mask on in a dark alleyway and bang, dead.
Yeah.
Like,
Now,
it, go ahead.
Now, do you think that was an attempt to add another person to the Young Avengers team? Because obviously we see his. I don't know if that was his daughter or his niece. I think it was
His
his niece,
niece.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
his niece.
Do you think that was an attempt to just kind of like get him integrated into the world, let people know White Tiger is established in the MCU, even though we'd never seen him before, just to be able to pass it on to his niece that will ultimately be part of the Young Avengers?
I don't know if she'll be part of the Young Avengers, but I think that's definitely was the thought. Like, hey, let's get another young Latina female superhero, right?
Hmm.
Like, she can play off of uh Miss Chavez, right? Like,
Hmm.
Miss, is it, I'm losing the name. Is it
America
America?
Chavez.
I know. What's her, like, superhero name?
Oh, I'm forgetting her name too.
Anyway, America Chavez, like, are I think that's what they did. Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe they do bring her in for the Young Avengers. It just seems like that team is getting very
too big.
big with
Yeah,
zero content. Like,
yeah.
zero content behind these characters essentially, and they're all going to age out so quick. Like, we don't have that on the books or anything, and kids age quickly. Like, they're going to be 30 before it gets filmed.
And see,
So
that's the thing that's kind of frustrating about it, which I think this is one of the things Star Wars has handled really well recently was Skeleton Crew, right? We got the show about kids. It was pretty, which we had a debate about if the show is actually kid friendly or not. But for the most part, it was catered towards a kid audience. That's what Young Avengers should have been, right? It should have gotten these like kid actors. Obviously they wanted to put certain characters in it, and I understand all that too. But there's a lot of characters you could have come up with that you could have put in the MCU as kids and kind of let us get to watch them grow up in their own thing. And I completely agree. I mean, they are going to age out of this really fast, and it's soon going to be like the 30-year-old Avengers. But but yeah, that's kind of what I thought it was with the White Tiger. I think it was just an attempt to get another Young Avengers character for the movie.
Yeah, and maybe they're trying to get Young Avengers more because the ones that they have clearly aged out. Like you
Yeah.
think of Kate Bishop. Like Kate Bishop shouldn't be a Young Avenger. She's probably 26 at this point. Like that's a grown woman.
Yep.
Like so, I don't know.
I
I'm
guess it
excited to
depends
see
on
this.
what Marvel's definition of young is, right? Old people will tell someone that's 27, 28, oh, you're still young. You got your whole life ahead of you. So I guess it really just depends on we'll have to look up young in the Marvel encyclopedia.
Yeah, absolutely. I do believe it is sub 20.
I would agree.
Uh,
I would agree.
for Marvel. I think for Marvel it's sub 20, but I guess we'll see. I am super stoked for Thunderbolts though. I've heard that it is very, very good from multiple first screenings. I haven't listened to any full reviews on it though, but it's getting some pretty good praise. Somebody
Yeah,
said it was going to get $1 billion.
well, I'm lucky that I haven't been spoiled yet, but just so those of you out there, apparently the spoilers are running rampant. I have seen so many people
Ooh.
talk about how the movie has been spoiled for them. I think there's even the full end credit scene has already been leaked. So just be aware, those of you out there, if you might want to go, if you like to go on X or Instagram, there is an option to mute certain words so that they don't come across your timeline. I have muted Thunderbolts and spoilers and all sorts of stuff like that, just so I don't take any chances of getting it seen. But yeah, so be aware of that because the spoilers are apparently really, really bad for this one.
Hey, that's wild. Yeah, I hadn't heard that. So I appreciate the warning, Jacob, for myself, to kind
Yes.
of not have that.
Yeah.
So
When you're scrolling through there, make sure you're just like looking at the very top of each post so you can tell if it's like Thunderbolts related or not. And then if it is, just scroll past it really fast.
yeah, well, yeah, that's great advice from our host Jacob here. If you see Thunderbolts and you haven't seen the movie, maybe stay off social
Yes.
media. It's okay. It's okay to go a few days without social media. But honestly, I think that's it for our Daredevil review. There's more we can harp on, but I do want to talk about this Last of Us episode. But before we jump into Last of Us, Jacob, would you recommend this to someone who has not watched the MCU?
The Daredevil show, having not watched the MCU, I think really isn't a bad spot to jump in because it doesn't feel like it plays on a lot of things that have happened in the MCU. And that's usually how I gauge things. Like, will you have had to watch something else for the show to make sense? My wife hadn't watched the first Daredevil show on Netflix or the Punisher show or any of that stuff, and she still really enjoyed this. So I definitely think it's a good jumping on point. It's not the best story. It might not be something that gets you engaged in wanting to watch more of the MCU, but I definitely don't think it's so bad that you won't, have a good entry point. So I would recommend it to other people. I've told a few people that I work with that haven't watched it that, hey, I think you should watch it. It is still a fun watch. The story might not be perfect, but it does have some fun plot points throughout it. So, yes, I would recommend it.
Okay. I would not recommend it. I just don't think it's a good enough quality product to recommend watching to somebody. I think I would just watch, like, if you haven't watched anything up to this point, like I would definitely recommend, hey, go check out the Netflix series, like go check out something else. So this would not be on my recommended watch for someone who has not watched any of the MCU. If you've watched MCU, I would definitely recommend, like, hey, yeah, you might as well pick it up, especially if you're not watching anything. Don't make it a priority, but it's worth the watch especially if you like Charlie Cox, because he really does such a good job as
Mhm.
Daredevil.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that's one thing we probably didn't touch on enough. I do feel like the acting was pretty spot on this show. I think they did all the characters did a great job representing who they were. So yeah, 100% agree with that.
Yeah, yeah, the acting was very, very good, and Vincent D'Onofrio was criminally written, I would say. Like, unfortunately, his I think Kingpin really went low on the totem pole this time for their writing, and they were forced to do a bunch of stuff with him that I don't think was great. But he's still great. John Bernthal's amazing. We get to see Charlie Cox is back in full action. Um, it's just a great team. So I am excited for the second season, but I would hold off if you haven't watched anything else.
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right. We had a massive, massive episode of The Last of Us. Guys, if you haven't seen The Last of Us, you haven't played the video games, I'm going to give you a second here to jump off because we're going full spoilers, full steam ahead. There's no reason to talk about episode 2 of The Last of Us season 2 if you haven't watched the show. It's good. It's solid. Uh, I
It
think
was
it's
the highest rated
very,
show of all time for The Last of Us. So,
very high
per
quality.
episode. Yeah.
Oh, was it? Very
I
high
think it is.
quality show.
Yeah.
So it's mature. So if you haven't had the warnings already, there it is. But yeah, dude, what the heck?
Oh man, that's been my favorite thing for all the people that haven't watched the game. Just watching this all unfold. I kept watching my wife as the show was going on, and like, I wonder if she's catching on to what's about to happen. Like, I wonder if people are realizing that it's about to be the end for Joel, and I don't think she did. So yeah, for us people that have been watching the game, this has just been a long time coming. And it's also funny that like I think it was one of our maybe it was when we were talking about The Last of Us in the podcast previously, and I almost made up a slip about all this stuff happening because I said, well, this being Ellie's story, and I remember you were like, I don't know if this is Ellie's story, and I was like, oh, yeah, you know what? Maybe it isn't Ellie's story, just because I didn't want to lead you on too much. But yeah, Joel's gone, so yeah, it's a crazy episode, man.
Dude, and it's wild that it happens so early.
Hmm.
And it's just really like it's so frustrating because now I was so looking forward to his character growth and dealing with all of the pain and the wrongs that he did and how he handled it incorrectly and getting to see him grow and develop with Ellie. I was so looking forward to that. And I even told you last episode, like, yeah, I expect him to die. Like, I bet they're gonna kill him off, but dang, I didn't expect him to die yet.
Hmm.
Like, oh man, that was crazy.
Yeah,
And
that's been the big complaint with even the people that played the game. It was a very frustrating thing when we were all first playing it for the first time, and it's obviously very early on in the second game as well, and it just kind of like really takes you by surprise because he's the most beloved character in the show. Everybody loves Joel. Everyone loved Joel in the video games, and I do have to give credit where credit is due, though. When you have a character that is that beloved and you are willing to go to that length, some people might say it's bad writing, some people might say it's good writing. I just got to give the props to being willing to do something that crazy, right? I feel like so often, especially with the stuff we get today, plot armor is so easy to kind of just pick up on in knowing when a character isn't safe. And there's been a few shows that have executed it really well. Obviously, I've never watched Game of Thrones, but I've heard that just nobody is ever safe. And the same thing can be said about The Walking Dead had its plot armor characters for sure, but it still had a lot of characters that you thought would probably never die and still do. So I always like to give credit to the shows that are willing that no matter what character you are, no matter how important you are to the story or how much you are beloved by the fans, being willing to take that character out and be done with them is always something I think is really impressive. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
yeah, it is super impressive. And I was talking to somebody, I was talking to my friend Guy today or yesterday about it, and he was saying that the writers really did this as a screw you to the fans of the first game because they wanted people to hate Joel for the decision he made at the end of the first one. And I just don't understand that take. Like and he said they were pretty outspoken on that aspect. And I just don't understand, like, he's not, like, yeah, he did an evil thing, but that doesn't make him the antagonist of the entire story. Like, that doesn't make the connection and the growth that we got to see him develop and connect with Ellie and spend that time with go away. Like, yeah, he made a mistake, but he did it to save the one he loved. And yeah, it was really selfish of him, and he didn't handle that right after. And there's 1,000 different ways that like probably could have done better, but that's how he dealt with it. And so, like, yeah, that's a sucky moment, but that doesn't make him the protagonist, and that all of a sudden we all will hate Joel because he may or may not have stopped the cure from being spread. And I think that's just crazy. I think that's crazy that they killed him off just to be like, screw you, all those people who like Joel.
I think that's like maybe pushing it a little bit too far because I definitely never got that sentiment or heard those comments. But I will say I do find this show a lot of the time, and it's a very common theme throughout the show, really trying to gauge people's moral compass. And I think just the reaction, I think more so the path I would go with it is they felt like that would make people's moral compass maybe, trigger a little bit. Maybe people are like, whoa, that's a lot of killing for a character that's supposed to be one of the main characters, supposed to be someone that's really taking care of somebody else in Ellie. And the fact that it didn't get people as upset about it, I think that's more so a pathway that makes a little bit more sense with that. And I think that's an interesting thing about this show is it does constantly gauge, like, are we okay with what Joel did because he saved Ellie? But ultimately saving Ellie, costs potentially millions of more lives, right? So I like that aspect about the show. I definitely never felt it as like a screw you to the fans or anything like that. But it can be taken that way if you're such a big fan of the character and you just don't see it coming at all.
Yeah, it is wild. Like it is a wild introduction to the season in episode 2. And the action just looks so good.
Hmm.
Like I know that Joel's execution is the headlining of this episode, but dang, how good was the attack and the infected and really just descending upon the town. The action in the town was phenomenal. I love Tommy's scenes. Tommy is such a good addition to the show. I really like that he's going to be. Uh, I'm speaking from a point of no knowledge, but maybe a character in the show that I can really like start to connect with and enjoy watching. He'll probably die too, but I did like that he was as front as headlining in this episode as he was. But yeah, dude, 5 years of plotting to go torture a dude, uh, because he killed your father, who was going to kill his adopted daughter.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, dude. If you want to test somebody's moral compass, let's talk about like the the pain that vengeance causes. Like, if they show that like she's all happy and good because she did this, like this solved her problems, I'm gonna have an issue with that because this would not solve her problems. She would not get
Well,
relief from what she
and
just did.
one thing you brought up about Tommy, that is one thing that they did differently in the game. In the game, Tommy is actually with Joel when he is killed. So that's
Oh,
been kind of
okay.
one of the things that has been got people thinking a little bit more. Some of the things they did in the show, I will say personally, I really like the changes compared to the game. That being one of them, I thought this made a lot more sense because it gave Tommy his moment to kind of be the guy in the town, right? And he has a really great scene where he takes out like the biggest infected. I really thought that was great. I like that aspect of it. So, I can't say much about, what happens with Tommy now because they've already written his character a little differently. So those are some of the things that I think, as far as like us that have played the game, I think that's cool for us that now we do have some mystery about, okay, if they are willing to change some stuff like that, which that's kind of a big change to make because obviously Tommy doesn't get to witness his brother die. What else are they going to be willing to change? What things are they going to elaborate on and things like that? So I think that's a really cool little, tidbit of something that they did differently.
Yeah, and it was like it was a pretty hard. I would have preferred Tommy be there because I would connect with his pain more than Ellie just because of how immature and frustrating Ellie has been so far.
Hmm.
And, the pain that she's going to have for not fixing her relationship with him is going to sit with her for a really long time and going to drive her probably to like a lot of frustration just because of like how poorly she treated him consistently. Uh and that's going to eat at her for a minute.
Yeah,
And
yeah, for
and
sure.
honestly, if she goes and she forgives this girl, this chick, which is probably the storyline, Abby gets forgiven by Ellie, and it's a great like I don't know where she's getting this forgiveness from. Like she's not been taught it, she's not shown it, she's not developed it. Like I don't know. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be interesting how they are going to try to pull this off, and I can already kind of see some of the threads that of like why people were so unhappy with the second one. if that's kind of what they do, they try to make Abby a sympathetic character. Like, oh, well, her father died, so it's reasonable for her to plot for 5 years to go brutally um torture and kill a man um who was saving his daughter. That's a reasonable thing to do. Like if that's the thing that they try to pull, I don't know, man. I don't think I'm gonna be there. I don't think it's gonna work for me.
I just talked to one of my friends at work, and they were talking about that, and they were like, "How do you stay mad for that long?" And I was like, "Well, I guess if you think about it, like, there's not really anything to get your mind off of stuff anymore, right? Like, you're dealing with infected people every single day, just people trying out to kill you all the time. Like, I was like, I guess I could understand maybe having some anger stick around for a while longer, but no, I agree. I think 5 years of never being able to just move on, and not only that, like, obviously we see what they're going through just to find him. I think all of that stuff is just so crazy, and it's kind of a funny topic when you like think about it logically. You're like, it just doesn't make any sense. But that's what, if you really think about most movies and shows, they don't make a whole lot of sense either a lot of the time. So it's not something to be upset about. But I do find that as like a
Right.
funny thing. A lot of people I've noticed have brought up like, how do you stay mad for 5 years and plot this for this whole time? And I'm just
Well,
like,
and
yeah, you feel the exact same way all of us felt a few years ago.
and also like the loyalty that these
Oh,
colleagues
it is
have
very
to her.
frustrating. Yeah.
Like, why? Like, you have given us nothing of Abby. Like, I personally, now I know this isn't how it was written, and I'm not a writer. I didn't have the source material, but why in the world did we not get at least a little bit of time with Abby? Like, on her journey, like maybe like some of the struggles of what the fireflies went through beforehand. Like, it would have been better. And maybe that's what they do. Maybe they flash back and show the pain that she experienced after the death. And there's a reason that 5 years of pain just kept coming to the surface. I don't
It
know.
grew. It just kept
Yeah, it
growing.
just kept
It's like
growing.
the infected. It just keeps growing, it just eventually just takes over. So
But yeah, but it is really cool to see how well the infected have developed and like
mhm.
how much of a threat they are. That's really cool.
Yeah, which is that's something that we talked about a lot about in the first episode was it's so important to make your very first threat in these type of apocalyptic shows stay a threat. We've mentioned The Walking Dead. I feel like we mentioned it quite a bit randomly, but yeah, it became a non-threat, the zombies in that show, and I think this show is doing a really good job of not making viewers feel like, oh, it's just an infected, like nothing to really worry about here. So I'm glad that they've done a good job of executing that. And you were talking about like the scene down in their fort, like in their hometown. So awesome, right? We get to see how prepared they were for a situation like this. But no matter how prepared you are, you really can't ever be prepared enough for what could be coming. And so I think they handled all that really, really well. I love the scene where they let the dogs out and the dogs just
Yes.
went haywire. Really, really cool scene. It kind of gives you that little jolt of like, okay, they'll fight back a little bit here because they have another weapon. Yeah, I thought a lot of that stuff was executed really well in the show.
Yeah. And I did not expect Tommy to survive the big dude, especially the way he did. Uh I thought like I thought the flamethrower would work immediately, or maybe somebody came back with some type of weapon that could pierce all that armor. I didn't expect the flamethrower to run out and then him just fall in front of him. I did think that was the end of Tommy,
Yeah,
but
which was a cool
obviously,
scene too. And they touched on one of the things I liked about when they saw the big guy walking into the town, and you see a few, like I think it's Tommy's wife. Always forget her name. I don't know why. We see her kind of focusing on shooting him, and it just like isn't doing anything. You just kind of see little pieces of his armor getting chipped away. I thought that was a really awesome little detail that they added. Like bullets might not work on this guy. You might have to go to another means. And another thing I really liked is when we saw the little fire squad standing there. We saw two of them turn around and run away when they saw how many of them were running in. I thought that was a really like clever little ad that they did there as well.
yeah, it was a clever ad, but it really did. I was like, "Ah, come on, don't leave Tommy. He
Yep.
needs you, you bunch of
Yep.
pansy cowards." Um, so pretty fun.
Deep down though, like I was like, yeah, I'd be running too. Yeah, just be standing there. Oh
What's
man,
what
but
depends. Depends on, I mean,
I guess it depends on what there is to run to.
and what you're protecting, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
that's the big thing. Like, man, if you are protecting the only thing you have, like what's it matter? If you fall, if you fall, so does everyone else. So you might as well stand strong. And that's like a lot of the point in these seasons. Like, there's just nothing to live for if you are cowardice like this. Like,
Hmm.
death is a better escape than to live with nothing. Like, that's I don't know. So I don't know. I think I would have, not living in a zombie apocalypse with a flamethrower with 1,000 zombies at me. Yeah, I'd definitely stand there. I'd stand there and take it like a man.
Nah, I'm out of there. I would be the one turning and leaving you there.
Oh man, after you left, maybe I'd leave. I don't know.
You'd be like, ah, you know what? Maybe he's right.
Maybe there's no wall.
We'll start up a
Without
new
three of
colony
us, so we're
somewhere else.
useless.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good episode. It looks good. I'm so
Yeah.
happy it looks good. The scenes are beautiful. The set designs are great. The visual effects are stunning. They do such a good job with all of that. The only thing I think that took me out a little bit was the dog scene. The dog scene did look very digitized, but not
Mhm.
enough to be like, oh, that looks awful. It was just like,
Yeah.
oh, those aren't real dogs,
Which makes
which
sense.
makes
You know,
sense.
yeah.
Jinx.
But I feel like they do a good job with the infected. You can clearly tell like the makeup and stuff that they're doing on these people that are, you know, that are we're getting the close-ups on is really, really well done. So I love when they do take that time to, you know, use some more practical effects rather than doing all the CGI and stuff. It definitely makes a difference in scenes like that.
Yeah. But I love my wife. She was the episode ended and she was like, "All right, well, there's no reason to watch it because I hate everyone else in the show."
My wife said the exact same thing. She was like, I'm definitely not watching this show for Ellie. I hate Ellie.
Right. Chelsea's like, I hate looking at her. I can't stand looking at her face. She has a stupid face. She acts like an idiot. I hate
uh,
her. She's like, I'm not watching the show anymore.
and we'll all be seated next week for the next episode,
Well, I definitely will be. I don't know. Maybe I'll
right?
be watching it by myself.
By yourself. Oh man. No, I think that's been a lot of people. You know, you brought up the most controversial episode of television in a while. It definitely is. You know, I think that's why the game had so much controversy along with it, is because you know we felt the same way. We felt so betrayed, and it's fun getting to let other people enjoy our pain that we've already got to endure. So it's brought a lot of funny dialogue about for sure.
Yeah, crazy. And it has been fun. And the moral implications of siding with Joel and being frustrated with Abby is super fun to think about. And I just think they're not equal. It's not the same. And I had a long conversation with one of my coworkers, and they were like, "Oh, it's like, why is it okay for Joel to do it, but not okay for Abby to kill Joel?" And I'm like, those are two very different actions. Very different actions. And I get it. I'm not saying Joel was in the right. But I care about Joel. I know Joel. I've seen Joel's
I
story.
like
Like, I
Joel.
I was developing with him. Like, I was excited to see how he would grow out of this wrong that he's done to protect his family. Um uh yeah. No, they're not the same. And I do think it is funny that maybe that was supposed to be how we feel about it from the show writers.
Mhm.
But I think they missed a mark if they were trying to tell us they were the same because they are definitely not.
Yeah, it's again one of those things. I think the show does leave a lot up for interpretation. I never got that aspect of like, oh, they're trying to prove to us it was the same thing. I think it more so was just like a, you know, this is what can happen to people. You know, that I don't necessarily want to say let their guard down, but with everything that was going on, I think they did a good job of executing it. Right, like it kind of made sense for Joel to be out on a patrol. I'm sure he did patrols all the time. Seems like something he would like to do. Unfortunately, he gets split up because of the storm that comes in. I think that all those things also deserve their props in this type of episode because clearly we hear how well defended the fort is, how much they were like, oh, we might just need to turn around and leave because there's no way we're getting into that fort. And I think they did a really good job of giving us a reason as to why everything happened the way it did. So I'm happy it wasn't just something like, oh, they got lucky and sneaked past a few guards and found themselves at his house. No, I think this was definitely the way to go about it.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna like come in as refugees, earn their trust, and then kill them. That was
Which that could have been
my
good too.
expectation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because yeah, like there is no like direct way in that would make sense. But
Yeah,
yeah,
for
no,
sure.
they did a good job with it. I do like that you brought that up. Like, yeah, it was well done. Like it did make sense. That he was literally saving her life.
Yep.
Uh, hey, careful who
So,
you save.
well, it's so funny too, right? Like I'm watching this develop and I'm like, I know it's coming. Like I know it's about to happen. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, maybe it's different this time. Maybe they don't kill him. Maybe she is like, oh, this is Joel, but he's all right. Like he just saved me. Like maybe they write the story a little differently. And as soon as she got in, the way I heard her say, and this is Joel, I was like, oh well, there goes any hope I had of them changing the story up a little bit.
Oh man, I really wish they would have. I wish they
Yeah.
would have. But I'm still excited to tune in next week.
Yeah, well, I think that's credit to what they've been able to build, right? They killed off just about everyone's favorite character, and people are like, "Well, where does it go next?" Right? And I think that again deserves its props. I feel like I've said that a lot about this show, but it's just such a high quality show, like you've talked about. From the visuals, the acting is really good. Whether you like Ellie or not, I still think that she's doing a really good job acting this season. Obviously, Pedro Pascal was an incredible Joel. Tommy's been great. The whole cast has been really good. So yeah, if you're not watching it and you're okay with the mature aspect of the show, I just highly recommend it at this point. It's been a really great time, and even for someone that's played the game and knows the story, I'm still really interested to see how they develop it with the show because, like I said, there's been a few things they've done a little differently, and I'm just excited to see if they take the liberty to change anything else up.
Yeah, but yeah, dang. I guess we'll be back. We'll be back next week and see what they say about it, right?
Yep, we'll have to see if the people that are watching the show for the first time and haven't played the game see how they feel about the next couple steps in the storyline.
Oh no. It's not over.
Joel comes back. He's just kidding.
Joel comes back to life
He
as an
wakes up.
infected.
Yeah, he wakes up. It's all good. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Just
Nothing
forget about
happened.
it.
They patched
Yep.
his airway after dragging him back to
Yep.
to base in a body bag.
Yeah, he was sleeping.
Yeah, he was just taking a rest. We saw him in the trailer. He was in grass. He was in grass. He can't be dead.
I have loved seeing those like comments about like what we've seen in the trailer, and people are like, "It's gonna be different." For us to get to this episode, I'm just like, "Oh
Nope.
man, I wish I had
Murked.
that hope."
Yeah. But anyway. Well, guys, thanks so much for tuning in for this episode of Weekly Fix. We love talking about this stuff, and if you do as well, come on and reach out to us. Give us a follow on Instagram. Give us a follow, a like on Spotify, whatever you're listening to us on. We'd greatly appreciate it. We appreciate you sticking around to the end of the show. If you are enjoying this or you have any recommendations for us, send us a message, get in contact with us, and we'd love to hear what you want to talk to us about. We had a few people reach out with some rankings that they wanted to hear about, so we are trying to decide which one we're going to be doing, but we will be bringing that to you guys shortly, so stick to it. Jacob, you got anything off before we sign out?
Nope, I'm good for this episode.
All right, guys, thanks for sticking around, and we'll catch you in the next episode of Weekly Fix.